you weren't able to see the players on the pitch 3 or 4 times the week. And I know that you did some stuff online, so are you willing to give us some examples of what you did do online, and what were the real reasons for doing it?
Yeah, sure. So I think we realised quite early on that it was important to maintain some kind of connection. Well, we were going to be, realising we were going to be apart for a few months at least. It was important to, to keep everyone together and talking in some way. Now we realised, some clubs, some teams were doing fitness sessions straight away, and we thought it just didn't feel right to be doing that sort of thing at that time. People had other things on their minds, understandably. So let's get the group together. Let's have some kind of Zoom chat. Let's get them online. So we can actually see each other's faces. There's one thing having a group chat on WhatsApp or whatever, but then actually being able to see each other and interact with each other. So we came up with the idea of just doing a quiz night. I think a couple of other people have been doing it at work and things like that, and it became, that's actually quite a good way of people all just informally spending some time together. So yeah, decided to do a quiz night. I think I was the inaugural quiz night host. And apparently my questions were far too boring for the nice young team that we have, and I was quickly ousted as the host. And actually, what became quite good is that the girls kind of went on a kind of rotating chair basis. So each week, one of the girls would be the quiz master, and there'd be a different team. We've got Australians in the team, so it'd be an Australian themed quiz and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it was actually a really good way of keeping everyone together, and it was good fun as well. And I think as well, like we had a real mix of people in the squad who, some were at school and had suddenly been cut off from school. Some were at uni, were in flux about what's happening with uni. Some were working, going into work every day during the pandemic. Some were working from home. Some were on furlough. So actually, the majority of the squad just weren't seeing people. So it was just a really nice way to see each other, interact, and have some fun. So that's what we did to start with. So for the first kind of, I would say, 4, 5, 6 weeks of lockdown. And then once we'd exhausted the quiz format, and we thought, right, maybe it's time to start doing a bit of exercise. So then we moved on to taking some kind of Zoom conditioning fitness sessions. And again, it started with Harry and I taking those sessions, but very quickly realising that we were too boring and not interesting enough. So again, the girls ousted us, and it's a theme emerging here. They ousted us and took over, and they then took over the fitness side of things and ran their own sessions, which was great. So I guess we just realised it's important to get the group together. It's important for them to see each other and interact, but really it's then up to them what it is they want to do. The quiz seemed like the right thing to do at the start, and I think it was. But then moving on to something that seemed a bit more hockey related, so the fitness stuff. As we were approaching the time, we thought we're probably soon getting on the pitch at some point in some way. So yeah, the group kept connected, kept together, and yeah, we're really glad that we did it, because I think a lot of people probably got a lot out of it and maybe wouldn't tell us that they did, but I think they would have done, because a lot of people would have been isolated. That was a way for seeing their friends.
Superb. Thanks for sharing those kind of stories. Last thing would just really be in lockdown period and not being able to get on the pitch, and obviously utilising online. Are there big lessons for you that you would want to continue, things that you've recognised or done online, or are there things that you would immediately go, no, we need to stop that, we're never going there ever again?
Yeah, so one thing that I think, so I'm kind of thinking Scotland, we get to November, we're not even halfway through the outdoor season yet, and we tend to get icy nights and cold pitches and pitches that aren't playable, so often training nights get cancelled. And kind of the go-to is, let's do a video session, a tactic session in the club, let's go up to the meeting room or something like that. And it's great we've got that facility, but actually I think what I've now realised is that could be done by Zoom. You could do video sessions and tactic sessions via Zoom. So I'm thinking, on a cold night in the middle of November, when we know the pitch is frozen, we know training's not going to be happening outdoors, instead of getting the team to drive miles and half an hour and an hour to come to the pitch to sit in a meeting room, well, they can sit in their own house, they can put on their iPad, and Harry or I can then lead a video session from our own house with our laptop. And I think that's the kind of thing that you could very easily do. I think it would be just as effective as doing it face to face, actually. I think a lot of people would prefer it. And I think it's something that, had COVID not happened and lockdown not happened, it's just not something we would have done. I think the default would still have been, let's get everyone into the meeting room. But actually, is that really necessary? I don't think it is. I think we've shown that we can still interact. Obviously, face to face is essential, but when it's not absolutely necessary, why would you force people to come to the pitch when, come to a clubhouse on a cold night in November when they could just log on at home? So that's a big thing I think I would be very keen to take forward. And certainly it's COVID that's pushed us in that direction, and I don't think we would have kind of felt it was something we could do had it not been for the experience of COVID.
Cool. Anything on the flip side that you would never try again and you would stop doing?
I think what I've learned is that it's important for the group to determine the kind of the frequency of interaction when we're in that kind of situation where it could become like it's forced fun, and when you're kind of forcing people to come together to have fun virtually, and obviously there's an element of it that you do need to encourage people to come together. You provide the structure and format and encourage people to come, but I would say that the group ultimately needs to decide. So you don't make things mandatory. People want to jump on the call, they can. If they don't want to, they don't need to. Obviously that's different when it comes to training and things, but when it's a bit more informal, I think make it informal, make it something. If people want to come, they can come. If they don't need to, they don't need to. And I do think there's a lot that coaches in general can learn about letting players kind of have the final say on these kind of things, because ultimately you'll have a good conversation, you'll have a fun evening talking to each other if the people there are people who want to be there. And I think that's something that is worth keeping in mind if we get into that sort of situation again. That's certainly something that's at the top of my mind, I would say.